There's a long and elaborate list of mitzvot and isurim, prohibitions, in this week's parasha of Acharei Kedoshim, particularly Kedoshim. And there isn't always a clear connection between the mitzvot, which are next to one another. And sometimes it seems that the psukim jump from topic to topic without any kind of pattern. Indeed, if you look at a quick review of the list, you can see that the mitzvot that are included are a variety of subjects. We read about the korbanot, we read about gifts to the poor, justice, the law, Shabbat, and all sorts of other things. But if we look carefully, we can learn a lot from the list of mitzvot, and maybe we can understand the meaning a bit better. I want to take an example. For one, the mitzvot that appears in the middle of the parasha, mipnei seva takum v'hadarta mipnei zakein. Rise up before the elderly and give honor to the aged. Now, this mitzvah comes straight after the prohibition on having a tattoo, or on prostitution, and on idol worship, and immediately before the mitzvot of social justice, such as treating the stranger well and having honest weights and measures. Now, on the surface, it's a bit difficult to find a connection between these mitzvot and a common thread between them, and especially the connection to honoring the elderly. It's a bit odd that this mitzvah of honoring the elderly doesn't come together with mitzvah a bit earlier in the parasha. For examlo, lo tekalel cheresh v'lifnei iver lo titein michshol. You shall not curse a deaf person and don't place a stumbling block before a blind person. So why did the Torah take the mitzvah of taking care of the elderly from its natural place, which is among the mitzvot involved in protecting the weak, and put it in the middle of this list, seemingly without any connection to the mitzvot around it? And I think the answer is that this tells us that honoring the elderly is not connected to being kind to the weak parts of society. Getting up for an old person is not about giving him your place because he needs somewhere to sit. It's not an environmental issue. It seems to me that behind this mitzvah is the desire to establish a social hierarchy in which adults, and particularly the elders, have a place of honor. The Torah doesn't want the young to look upon the old people with pity and mercy. Oh, Nebuch, he's old and frail, I better look after him. No, this view suggests that their image is as a weak and irrelevant part of society. And indeed, in modern society, that is the way it's looked at often. No, the Torah wants to give us the exact opposite view. We have to recognize the merits and in many ways the superiority of the older generation over the younger generation. The elderly have got core values and experience that can only be acquired over many years. They've got seichel, they've got wisdom, they've got experience, intuition. As my father, Zichrono Livracha, told me many times, you can't put an old head on young shoulders. The young must respect and cherish these intangible but precious attributes. The elderly should be considered as a role model. So by not placing this mitzvah amongst those which protect the weak, the Torah presents these values as the basis for the recognition and appreciation of the elderly, rather than out of pity or duty. And this determines a social order, a certain cultural value system which defines the type of world that we wish to create. And now we can understand the relationship between honoring the elders and the rest of the mitzvot around it. Prohibitions on tattooing, prostitution, and idolatry, and then the positive commandment to love the ger and to have honest weights and measures. All of this seeks to maintain high moral values and not to fall prey to the superficiality of materialism and the subservience to pointless cultures such as body painting, prostitution, idolatry, and so on. So we must venerate the elderly, we must appreciate their wisdom, we must show respect for their experiences and learn from them as role models, not pity them for being weak or be irritated because they need assistance. And this way, we can fulfill our destiny as an Am Chacham V'Navon, a wise and discerning nation. Shabbat Shalom U'Mevorach.